Hello, it is Matthew with Dead Rights. Today I want to talk about marriage. And the reason being is pretty simple. Number one, I'm married and I have what I think is a really good marriage. And number two, I truly believe that God loves marriage and really cares about marriage. He cares about people's marriages and how healthy it is. And he cares about how efficient it is in terms of its benefit, not only to the people who are married, but to their children and to their community at large. So I think that marriage is vitally important, especially in today's age when you see marriage numbers and the amount of people who are comfortable with things like divorce. When you see that there are a great many people who are um, not fully committed to their marriages. So whether they commit adultery or they're looking at things online that they ought not to be looking at, whether you're married or single, but certainly not married, you shouldn't be looking at things, illicit images and videos online. Whether it's things like OnlyFans, where a large majority of men on OnlyFans are in marriages. They're married men, and this is really problematic. I think that marriage is constantly under attack, and so I think that talking about marriage is something that is really important for especially Christians in the church to really talk about and to discuss. And I say this as somebody who, in the first years of my marriage, I'm coming up on 8 years in just a couple of weeks. And the first few years of my marriage was terrible, to say the least. That's an understatement of how bad my marriage was. I was not a good man. I was not a good husband. We struggled with communication. We struggled with really loving each other, and so our marriage really suffered in the first few years. But I'm also a testament that a really bad marriage can turn into a really good one with a few things that are necessary in order for it to be not just a marriage but a great marriage. And this advice on this video is just going to be in general. This isn't particular to Christians who are married. This this isn't advice that's going to be for making a godly marriage, though godly marriages consist of these things. And this is what I want to talk about. I believe that there are two qualities that a man and a woman must have in order for their marriage to be great. Two qualities, simple qualities, but very difficult to maintain and to achieve. And those two qualities are these: love, genuine, just deep love for the other person, and commitment. Love and commitment are the two essential qualities to making a great marriage. That doesn't just become your roommates, or we kind of live together, or we live together in spite of each other, or we're married but we're not really enjoying it. No, if you have love and you have commitment, then you will have a great marriage. It doesn't mean that every day is going to be great. It doesn't mean that every conversation is going to be great, or that you're always going to be just over the moon in love with your spouse. But what it does mean is that you have the foundations in place to get through any difficulty, to get through any hardship, to get through any disagreements. That you can forgive each other, that you can move past barriers between each other, and that you're working toward a common goal together and you're committed to that. Love and commitment. These two things are absolutely essential. And if you miss one of these, your marriage literally just starts falling apart. I mean, let's just break it down, right? If I have love, but I don't have commitment, right? Well, then there's no stability in the relationship. I loved my wife when I was 23 years old, but I wasn't committed to her. And I know this is very difficult, and sometimes I think the two genders, men and women, can see these things differently, and they have a harder time understanding each other. That it's hard for women to think that if a man cheats on her, that he can love her, or that if he looks at illicit images online, or whatever the case may be, how does he love me? Well, he certainly can love you. But the problem is men are so prone to pursuing other activities, to pursuing other options. And it's vitally important that men establish not only love, but commitment for their wife. Because again, this leads to stability in the marriage. If I'm not committed to you, then I might leave you. I might, well, I love you, but I divorce you because things got a little bit difficult. And yes, I love you and I want the best for you, but I'm just not so sure I'm committed to doing everything that needs to be done in this relationship or in this marriage to make it work, to make it thrive, to make you happy or to make me happy. I'm not sure that I'm committed to the family or to my career or the things that are necessary in order to bring that stability to our household. Or women can say, I'm just not sure I'm committed. I love my husband, but he's a piece of work. And I'm just not sure I'm committed to the difficulty that it's going to take in order for me to bear with him all these years. You see, commitment lacks so often, and it leads to things like separation and divorce. And it ruins families. It breaks the hearts of children when their parents separate. And you hear all kinds of excuses for why it's better, but there simply is no excuse that can really be worth the justification of separation. It just simply is a lack of commitment, and that's a failure on somebody's part. Most often, it's a failure on both people's part, though there are circumstances where one person is fully committed and the other person isn't. And so obviously, if you have love but you don't have commitment, then you lose the stability and the marriage falls apart. But likewise, if you have commitment but you don't have love, then there's no joy. It's not co-working. Well, in some senses, it's co-working, but what I mean is co-working in the way that God intended for marriage to be co-working. It's meant to be side-by-side partnership toward the greater good of your community and your family and toward each other. Particularly in the Christian sense, marriages are what builds strong churches. It's what builds families. It's what builds strong children and resilient children. But if I'm committed to you, but I don't have a lot of love for you, well, then we're just roommates at that point with a little bit of a different kind of contract than a lease agreement, right? There's no joy. There's no patience. Well, I'm gonna be here for our kids. I'm gonna work this job. I'm gonna continue to do the things that I have to do just to make it by. But really, I don't have this deep, heartfelt love toward my wife. And it leads toward resentment. It leads toward a lack of communication, a lack of grace. And marriage really suffers when there's no love. And I mean genuine love. Christ-like love. If a man doesn't love his wife, then he might not treat her the way that he ought to treat her. Or if a wife doesn't love her husband, even though she's committed, she might begrudgingly do things. She won't have a good spirit about her. She won't have a good heart about her. She might, there might be more discord in the marriage and in the relationship. There might be more fights and more arguments, more hostility toward one another. If less of an option of seeking common ground and agreement, which is all vitally important for the health of a marriage. Communication is so important, and without love, communication really starts to fail. And so, obviously, commitment. Commitment's good, but commitment without that love aspect, well, marriages can't last with that. And even if they do last, that's not really what marriage is. Like I said, it's more like a coworker, like a roommate. You know, it's just a glorified roommate that's got a few more steps to breaking the lease. And nobody wants this. People who are in these marriages, I was in this kind of marriage. I've been on both sides. I've been committed without love, and I've had love without a lot of commitment. And those things kind of changed over time, right? I started and I loved my wife, but I wasn't committed to her. But man, as that lack of commitment was growing and really showing itself, it started to break apart the love that I had, where because I couldn't communicate with my wife, because I wasn't committed to her, and I was thinking about other options, and at times in my marriage, I was looking for other options. And I thank God that my wife is a patient and forgiving woman, far more than I ever deserved and far more than most people would ever get. I was blessed to have a woman who loved me and was committed to me, even though I didn't respond the same way to her. And I got the benefit of that because her patience and her love and her prayers and her commitment to me, it was instrumental and along with the Lord and along with counseling and good church community, and eventually a desire from my own self to say, I want this marriage to work, and I want to be a husband who is worthy of his wife, who's worthy of this bride that God gave me, right? I've been on both sides, but you see, when one falls, the other starts to fall. When I had love for my wife, but I wasn't really committed wholeheartedly, eventually that love began to break down, where I started to resent my wife, and I started to look at her and go, well, she's not enough. And I don't like her anymore. I don't love her. And so these two qualities are, like I said, vitally important to a healthy marriage, to a great marriage. So if you're somebody who struggles with marriage, maybe you don't have the love that you want to have, or maybe you don't have the commitment you want to have, or your spouse doesn't. First of all, I would suggest you pray. You just pray earnestly that because God loves marriage. God is the founder of marriage. And so pray for your spouse, pray for yourself, get involved in the community, get counseling. That was huge for me and my wife, was counseling. I had a man who sat down with me and said, look, if you don't care about this, then you just need to go. Not from the marriage, but from counseling, because I wasn't so sure. And that man-to-man confrontation was really beneficial for me. To speak to me like a man and to say, I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to have excuses. If you don't want to be here and you don't want to do counseling and you're not committed to this, then just don't even bother showing up, right? Because I was acting childish. I was acting like a little boy. And man, now that I have a son, I want my marriage to be something really special that my son can look at and say, my dad and my mom loved each other and are committed to each other, and they had a marriage that honored God, and it's one that I want to have in my own life. I want to be a role model to my son, to my community, to my church, to anybody who becomes a believer, to anybody who's not a believer, who looks at my life and says, you've got something that I want to have. That's what I want. And most of all, I want to have a marriage that honors my wife and honors my God, because he's the one who made it. It is ultimately for him. Because it shows me a little bit about how he looks at me. That my God is all loving and he's all committed to me. So that's gonna be it. Marriage is great. It's great. You gotta work to make it great, and you gotta trust God, and He'll help you out so much. That's gonna be it. Be blessed. I'll do another video at some point, sometime. Who knows? See y'all later.